Welcome in, everybody, to Grind Time, powered by Full Time Fantasy and the FFWC. I'm your host, Billy Muzio, and I'm joined today by my buddy Josh Larky from FTN Network. He is the Chief Analytics Officer over at FTN. He's the co-host of the FTN Fantasy Football Podcast with Ray G. What is it, number 8 now on the I call it the billboards. Is it on number 8 on the billboards?
Yeah, we snuck up there to number 8 this morning after releasing yesterday. So yeah.
Congratulations, my friend.
We've got the Dynasty nerds in number 7. Just laser tunnel vision for those guys.
Catching up. Watch your back. He also owns an R coding site for those of you who are interested in learning how to R code. He's also a TikTok sensation if you have not seen his TikToks. And probably the most important of the day, a burrito connoisseur. So how you doing today, Josh?
Billy, I'm doing well. Thank you. I was excited for this. Yeah, it's Cinco de Mayo for anyone that hasn't been aware of that. So I'm sure you're cooking up something absolutely delicious.
That I was a way bone today, or lazy man, right? I went out to dinner. So we took the kids for an early dunch, right? I call it. We went out and got them, quesadillas, and I had a camarones plate, and my wife had an asada plate. So just took it low key, just an early dinner, and got everything situated so we come home and record and not have to worry about dinner afterwards.
Oh, nice. I mean, I was going to say, tell me about it. We actually didn't talk pre-show. How have the first few weeks been at full time?
It's been awesome, man. Like, we've been redoing the whole the FFW site. So for those who are unfamiliar, FFWC is part of the family, or I should say, part of the branch of Full Time Fantasy, and it's the high stakes site. So it's the competitor to the FFPC, competitor to the NFFC, but we have been doing wonderful things. We have completely redesigned the My Teams page. We completely redesigned the queue and the lobby. We completely redesigned the view of how your teams look and how they can be shared to social media. I'm just constantly working behind the scenes of the user experience and trying to improve just the functions of the site to just make it more user-friendly, mobile-friendly, tablet-friendly. It's been a really fun project, actually. And then, on the side, I'm doing the videos and the rankings and all the analyst stuff. And but honestly, I'm falling in love with redesigning the site. It's been such a fun experience. And I want to keep hopping in drafts because I want to keep seeing all the new features that we've put out. And it's just been such a blessing. We created a tournament you and I discussed off air, was the Superflex Best Ball Tournament, which is a limited entry, 600 person tournament, $50 entry. First live draft is going to be this Friday. So tomorrow, I think there's only 4 or 3 spots available left. We started the first slow draft a couple days ago. And it's a unique format for best ball. No other site's done it so far. And it's a 600 entries. The top 2 in each league go on to the championship round. So a total of 100 teams. And then from there, you carry on your season average. So it's a 14-point season average that you carry into the playoffs. None of that pass-through shit. None of that, week 15 variance. Someone had a massive week and you get eliminated stuff. It's 3-week point championship shootout. Best teams facing the best, all points based, all 3-week shootouts, carrying the average. So there's no variance. There's no, luck involved to it. It's 100% statistics and analytics, and the best team wins. So super excited about it.
I'll tell you what I love about that. You want to know what crushed my ROI in some of these best ball tournaments last year? Week 15, the Buccaneers get freaking shut out. Are you kidding me? Tom Brady had been shut out, a decade? He gets shut out. My Fournette, Brady, Gronk, Evans, all those teams dead.
Yep.
Burrow, Chase, Higgins, they do nothing week 15 before the 16 and 17 explosions. Those teams dead. My goodness. I have a bone to pick with what happened in week 15 last year. So that was very cool to see, where I was like, oh, you know what? Whatever happens in week 1 through 14, you have a monster. You can potentially weather a really random bad week. So I like that idea. I like that format a lot.
Yeah, it hasn't been done in best ball. It's done that way in most high stakes tournaments, like the online championship, the FFWC, or the world championship, where you carry your average on. You're facing, the winners of the winners, or the champion league, the league champions. But best ball, it's never been done. And we were discussing it, and it's like, hey, we should probably do this. Like, this is going to reward the best team. And, people are able to, if they have a bad week 15, doesn't matter. They can make up for it week 16 or week 17. And hey, you know what? They may have dominated so much through the season that maybe they have a 20-point lead over everybody heading into the playoffs that should be accounted for, and they should be rewarded for building a great team for the regular season, and it should carry over into the playoffs. So super excited about the tournament. It's been a fun first few weeks. It's full time, and it's been, a really good fit for me and for what I like to do in the fantasy industry. Well, hop back into Cinco de Mayo. So burrito connoisseur, we said earlier, it's Cinco de Mayo, and I happen to have the burrito king here on the show today, Josh Larky, and I'm going to set the line at 1.5. How many burritos have you had today? Counting breakfast burritos, over or under 1.5?
So I know you think it's going to be over. I've only had one meal today. I had one burrito. I'm gonna have a burrito for dinner tonight, so it'll be over within a couple hours.
Okay, all right.
So I'm gonna move the line from closing now. We're gonna close the line in a couple hours. We'll be at 2.
Hey, look at that! I'm gonna win. So it's like a sporting event, right? You haven't told the clock runs out, and that's midnight tonight. So Larky eats his second burrito tonight. I'm gonna win the over at 1.5. So, did you do anything fun for Cinco de Mayo today?
No, I was working. I've got nothing fun. I had a late night last night, so tonight is more casual. There's nothing exciting about my Cinco de Mayo aside from, this podcast is going to be my highlight of the night. Is just us recording, chatting rookies, since we haven't talked about them yet. So I'm curious. I think we're going to disagree on some, agree on others. So I think that's just fun, is the ones that we don't agree on, just kind of taking notes as to why we don't agree, and then going back to the lab, back to the drawing board. So I think that's just really fun. I just enjoy that grind where I'm always iterating and trying to take in new information. So yeah, this is my Cinco de Mayo, this podcast.
That's the beauty about, though, like discussing, rookie rankings and discussing rookies with other analysts, and especially like someone like yourself who I respect in this community, because, iron sharpens iron. It helps us both, see things differently, because, you and I we have both approach things differently. Like, you're a lot more analytical based. I'm a lot more film based. We're able to really analyze different things, and we're able to combine those thoughts and really try to bridge, both mindsets in order to help us both understand, hey, what's happening on maybe this side of the world that I don't understand. So I'm excited to talk with you as well with these rookies. So let's hop into some rapid fire questions, Cinco de Mayo based, and then we'll hop into some rookie talk. But I'm just going to go through them. Don't spend a lot of time on it. First thing that comes to your mind, and we'll just do, real fast rapid fire. Corona, Pacifico, Sol, or Modelo?
Pacifico.
How do you drink your tequila? Neat or on the rocks?
On the rocks.
Margaritas blended or on the rocks?
On the rocks.
Asada or pollo?
Asada.
Camarones or carnitas?
Both.
Yes, on the taco at once.
I'm such a surf and turf guy. It's ridiculous. I'm from San Diego, so I feel like we've got the really good asada. We've got the really good camarones, fish tacos. I can't go land or sea. We got to go both.
I can appreciate that. You're like, throw it all in the burrito and just wrap it up. Mild, medium, or hot sauce?
Hot.
Okay. Salsa rojo or salsa verde?
Verde.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Tomatillo man, huh?
Yes.
So speaking of red or green, let's discuss some of these rookie landing spots and see whose arrows are pointing up, whose arrows are pointing green. The NFL draft has come and gone. Rookie landing spots have already begun to affect the landscape of the fantasy football draft boards. I've seen it, you've seen it, but give me your top 3 rookie risers, for the following positions: running back and wide receiver.
So I don't know if these are going to be the hottest takes of all. We'll start with receiver.
Okay.
My number 1 riser, and this is a player that I already really liked heading into the draft. It's Skye Moore. Skye Moore goes to the Chiefs, the nuts landing spot. I don't think I need to talk anyone into why that is a good landing spot, just generally, but did a little bit of digging, and I'll tell you what I love about the Skye Moore landing spot. Look at who. So I actually happen to think Skye Moore is very good. I know there's people out there that think he's bad. I think they're wrong. Skye Moore was actually a quarterback and cornerback in high school. He gets a scholarship to Western Michigan. They ship him out there. They don't know what to do with him. They just know they got an athlete. They go, hey, you ever played receiver? He says no. He has never played receiver up until college. He switches to receiver and has 802 receiving yards as a true freshman. That just shows that The guy is an absolute natural. He can play out wide. He can play in the slot. He's 5'10", 195, so he's got a little bit of stockiness. He's not that typical, he's not this Elijah Moore, Jalen Waddle, Deontay Johnson, short and skinny receiver. The guy's got some mass to him. In terms of the landing spot, look at who is there in Kansas City right now. There is no pass-catching running back to worry about. Clyde Brasileir, cannot do it. Ronald Jones, brick hands. There is nobody there. Then we go to the tight end room. It's Travis Kelce. He's going to be 33 in October. This is not a player that I want to bet on having a 25% target share anymore. In fact, it declined. It was about 20% last year. And then let's look at the receiver room. Mecole Hardman, gadget guy. Yards per reception, ADOT comes way down year 1 to year 2 to year 3. Manufactured touches guy. They don't like him. It's clear. Juju Smith-Schuster, the yards per route run, every efficiency metric, win rates across various sites, they've all come down year after year after year. Last year, he got injured, broke the collarbone in week 5, through 4 weeks. Juju Smith-Schuster was out-targeted by Deontay Johnson. Juju Smith-Schuster was out-targeted by Chase Claypool. He was out-targeted by Najee Harris as well. What? He was 4th on the team in targets in the 4 games he played. Add in that both Deontay and Claypool missed one of the first 4 games. So that is 3 games for Deontay, 3 games for Claypool, 4 games for Najee, all more targets than those first 4 games for Juju before he gets injured game 5. He is clearly on the decline. He got 1 year, $3 million guaranteed. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, we know what he is. 14% target share is his career high. Congratulations, MVS. You have maybe the most accurate quarterback in history of the NFL after Drew Brees in Aaron Rodgers, and your career catch rate's below 50%. We know what all these guys are. Notice that there was not a target hog there. Skye Moore commands a lot of targets. Love that landing spot. Are we at a similar point with Skye Moore? I think the guy is just set up to absolutely smash. A player I loved going in, where I look at the landing spot, it's Patrick Mahomes. Hello. And then the supporting cast is just a ton of very good role players in Travis Kelce. There's just nobody else there.
Yeah, I like Skye Moore. I like the landing spot, and I think it's more of a dynasty play than it is a 2022 play, in my opinion, for at least this year. And it just breaks down to the pie and what's available, right? It just statistically speaking, although Juju has not had, an outstanding season since he was the number 2 with Antonio Brown, I truly feel like he's still going to be involved, right? They still went out and got him. They acquired him. They're going to need someone to run across the middle of the field, run in the slot. And they brought in MVS for that deep threat to take off the pressure across the middle, to stretch the field. And I feel like they still have every position intact. Yes, there's now 2 or 3 people doing the position that Tyreek Hill was doing. But that being said, what kind of role now is Skye Moore going to have in 2022? The talent is there. I will not argue with that. The metrics are there. The ability is there. The athleticism is there. But I just look at it and say, will Andy Reid, will they trust him coming in 2022 year 1? Will they, allow him onto the field consistently enough to be fantasy productive, right? Because as analysts, we want to see it. As fantasy players, we want to see it, but we all know the NFL does things differently. And, they're going to probably develop him. They're going to utilize the time that they have with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. They're going to utilize the time that they have with Juju Smith-Schuster. They're going to utilize Travis Kelce, right? They're going to utilize Patrick Mahomes. They're going to use all these players as mentors to help him grow and develop. And I think that it's probably going to be more of a 2023 play, quite frankly. Will he have his ups and downs? Absolutely. Will he have his spike weeks? Absolutely. Best ball candidate, fine, go for it. Maybe not the price I want to pay for him, but I like the talent. I like the player. I'm just not sure 2022 is going to be his year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got his base target share at like 16, 17%, something like that, which I think is maybe a touch aggressive, but I don't think it's crazy. However, I do think, because kind of how I laid out, that there's no one's in the prime of their career crushing it in Kansas City right now. So that's why what I like about him for redraft is that I think that upside is there. It's kind of like with Jalen Waddle last year, where, it doesn't really matter what you think of Jalen Waddle. You could just look at that offense and go, okay, there's Gesicki, we know what he is. Devontae Parker is on the decline. And you just kind of look around and go, all right, it makes sense. Like Will Fuller, total flyer. We think he's good, but we haven't really seen him paired with not Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I like about this situation is that it's not quite as obvious. It's not to me like, I mean, we'll talk about it more in a little bit. Like Garrett Wilson, it is totally apparent Elijah Moore is really, really good at football. But like we don't have to worry about that with Skye Moore. We're like, oh God, we've got this massive hurdle. So I think that's what I really like about him. Two more names. I don't have as much to say about them. I feel like I'm just so passionate about Skye Moore, and I just love like dissecting the Chiefs and realizing like none of these players are all just kind of like stinky but decent role players. I like Treylon Burks. I feel like some people tell me like, yeah, they're like, oh, you're so lazy. You just said, oh, AJ Brown's gone. He's going to play the AJ Brown role. And I'm like, all right, well, let's think this one through.
Yep. Let's do the math.
Ceiling comp for Treylon Burks was AJ Brown.
Yep.
They get rid of AJ Brown to draft Treylon Burks. And he is a really good quarterback for his rookie season.
Yeah.
Treylon Burks is kind of a project. He's someone that we wanted to, I think he was actually a very landing spot dependent receiver. We could probably agree on that. Like,
yep.
Treylon Burks was not going to thrive everywhere.
No, like the worst spot, like when I was looking at the draft board and I was doing like the huddle report for the mock draft, I kept pegging him to Philadelphia because it's like, that's where he fits.
Yeah, I was terrified of that.
And I was like, man, this is going to be horrible, but it's probably where he's going to land. And then the trade happened and it shook everything up. But, thank God, because honestly, he probably would have landed there had they not got AJ Brown. And then we'd be talking about probably on my fade list and not necessarily a player that I'm targeting now. I completely agree with Burks here. And for me, it's simple math, right? He steps into immediate wide receiver one role with little to no competition. I mean, Tennessee, and I posted the vacated target chart on Twitter. Tennessee has the second most vacated targets in the league with 336. That's 64.25% of their target share that's available up for the taking on this team. He's immediately stepping into that role to where, and I talked about this in the GOAT District pod last night, like he would have to be really bad. Like he'd have to suck to not be fantasy productive here in 2022 or get hurt. Like one of the two, like those are the only two scenarios where it's going to happen to where he fails. He either sucks at football, which I don't think is the scenario, or two, he gets hurt. And outside that, like he's set up for a monstrous rookie year.
Yeah, he also showed that he can handle the crazy high volume. It's not just some gadget guy. I think it was mainly a product of Arkansas. Just their offense stunk. They didn't know what to do with him. He had over 1,100 receiving yards as a junior. Next most on the team had 330. The guy had 3 times the receiving yards of anyone else on the team.
That's going to be the same for the Tennessee Titans this year.
Yeah, they're going to funnel work through him until Robert Woods is ready to do something. They're going to, I mean, the NBC Sports Edge had that quote come out where I forget someone, I think it was Vrabel was like, we're going to force feed him. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. It's a big dude. He can handle it.
Yep.
It's going to be junior year of college all over again. It's going to be a weak offense, except he's going to get a quarterback upgrade and they're just going to force feed him.
100% agree. I love the Burks call. Okay. Give me your last one.
So the last one, it's not even a prospect I love, but I just have to mention Christian Watson. I think he has to be on your radar because of what happened with Aaron Rodgers. He gets the absolute dream landing spot in quarterback pairing. He is someone that I also think is very landing spot dependent. I don't think he's going to work out. I think he's Marquez Valdes-Scantling reincarnated. They lost MVS. They grabbed the other guy who's 6'4", 208 and runs in the 4.3s, who had a very murky college production profile. But I think there is a chance where I think at this point, I just don't think Allen Lazard's that good. Randall Cobb, toast. Amari Rodgers, when you get, I think 8 targets or whatever it was as a rookie, and he wasn't dealing with major injuries. I mean, people were like, oh, it's the Packers. They ease receivers along. And I'm like, no. They were competing for a Super Bowl last year. If Amari Rodgers was good with those receivers, he would have gotten reps. There is absolutely no way you can convince me the Amari Rodgers rookie season was typical and good for him. I don't
can't beat out Cobb, and at that age, something's wrong.
Yeah, so I think that Watson, I don't know. I really didn't like the prospect profile. He really feels like MVS, but I have to respect that Aaron Rodgers, if he re-signed knowing Adams was gone, that he's pretty involved right now, and that Watson is someone that he himself pre-approved and is looking forward to actually throwing to. So I just have to give the benefit of the doubt there. There's just wide open targets, and it's a Hall of Fame quarterback. This is what Watson needs. Like, he needs someone that can just throw the ball in the breadbasket when he runs his deep routes.
So I like the last sentiment you said, that he's been involved in the process, hopefully, and that he pre-approved. Because if all that is true, then I would probably pick Romeo Dubes over Watson. And I fell in love with his tape. Very productive college career. I mean, rookie 562 yards. As a sophomore, he had 650 yards, and then back-to-back over 1,000 yards in his junior and senior year in college with 20 touchdowns those 2 years combined. Has punt return ability as well. Just watching his tape, I like him. Like, he just looks the part. I would not be surprised if he actually put up more fantasy points in his rookie year than Christian Watson. And I said it last night on another podcast. I've been kind of touting him on Twitter and amongst some of the other high stakes players and in private messages. And I was drafting this kid in like round 20 all the time too. Him and Bell, like constantly, like when they were going late, and just constantly getting him in the mix. And again, it was very landing spot dependent. When I saw the Packers selected him, I was like leaping for joy. Like, it's like,
well, he is their archetype. He's a pretty big dude.
Yeah. I think he's going to 6'2", 204 pounds. Right. I mean, he's not, his metrics kind of suck, right? He's like a 4.7 40. The rest of his stuff is just all mediocre, but it's one of those things to where the metrics don't line up with the tape. Right.
Well, he was on special teams.
Yeah, he's a punt returner.
You're not putting like a true 4.7s absolute sloth out there to return kicks and punts.
Yeah, so exactly.
I took the 4.7 with a grain of salt.
Yeah. So, one of the players that moved at my boards a lot here, I love the landing spot. So I'm not big on Christian Watson. He's going to be overdrafted at the landing spot. I agree with most everything you said, but I would not be surprised if Dubes actually outperformed him in the rookie year. The last player I want to add to this in the wide receiver list, and it's an obvious choice, is going to be Drake London. Just, again, love the landing spot, right? He falls into number one receiver role as well. Typical X build, 6'4", 214 pounds, that prototypical X receiver. But Falcons, again, vacated targets, 5th most vacated targets in the league, 238 vacated targets, 42.88% are available up for the grabs. We all know that they lost Ridley's suspension. He's only competing against players like Auden Tate, Olamide Zaccheaus, Demir Byrd. Like, come on, these guys are scrubs. Kyle Pitts is there, which is, I think, a benefit to him because he's not going to see double teams. It's going to help Pitts as well because now Pitts not going to see as much double teams. So this is one of those scenarios to where he lands in a situation that is a gold mine for him as a receiver because there's no receivers to compete with, but he has somebody else to take the pressure off him on the field. Love the landing spot. Quarterback is the only concern and what they're going to do there, but the division's bad enough to where they're going to constantly put up points.
Yeah, I had London kind of like just outside my top 3. He was right there. One thing I'll say about Mr. Romeo. So I've been pretty outspoken against day 3 receivers. If you look at the hit rates, it's absolute shit compared to the day 3 running backs. And what I've said is that there are only 2 day 3 receivers I will ever consider in a rookie draft. And the list ends at 2. Romeo and Khalil Shakir on the Bills.
Hey, he made it.
And that there's nobody else. You cannot even there. I don't think there's any argument for any other players. I mean, these aren't even guys where I'm grabbing them constantly just because I'm going to defer to the hit rates generally. So I'll just take these late round running backs more often. But like if I'm doing a best ball draft and I need another receiver to complete my build, those guys are firmly on final round of the draft radar for me. So yeah, I'm with you.
Beautiful. Give me 2 running backs.
So I'm just not going to talk about Damian Pierce because opportunity in Texas. Cool. So let's talk about Tyrion Davis-Price, a player I don't like, but I think he's in just like the nuts landing spot compared to where he's being drafted at. This is more of a best ball take.
Okay.
Tyrion Davis-Price is available pretty much in the final round of your best ball drafts, like borderline final round. As far as I'm aware, he is as good, if not a better fit for what the Niners want to do than Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon went round 7 in best ball drafts last year. I agree. Trey Sermon is garbage. He went round 7. Are we really overcorrecting that much? That Tyrion Davis-Price, who if anything looks like a slightly better fit for what they do in San Francisco, should be going like 10 rounds later than we drafted Trey Sermon at? I mean, I agree. Trey Sermon probably overdrafted because the profile was just off compared to what the Niners like to do. But this overcorrection is egregious. Tyrion Davis-Price, I think, has some red flags. being that he was listed at 229 pounds on LSU's website and then shows up at the combine and blazes 4.48, but then weighs in at 211. So I'm just like, I don't even know who this dude is. He's big. Is he small? The athleticism's good, but it's not great. But I just think, yeah, he runs in the 4.4s. That's what you need to be a Niners running back. Elijah Mitchell, I think, is the obvious first crack starter, but we saw him be pretty fragile, as basically any small running back is that's in the zone scheme, and they're like, hey, just sprint left, sprint right. Yeah, these guys are going to get injured. So I like TDP, and I feel like not enough people are talking about this Sermon overcorrection, where I'm like, hey, I don't like any of these guys. I think Sermon sucks, but how come we had one thought process last year and then went to the polar opposite end? Those are the types of overcorrections I just don't understand. And I haven't seen anything about him that leads me to believe that he is way, way worse than Trey Sermon.
So I love hearing that you said Trey Sermon, because I keep hearing all these trolls saying that the Niners drafted him to replace Mitchell. I'm like, no. That was Trey Sermon's replacement. That is not Mitchell's replacement. Do I think that he may eat into some of his workload? Of course, because now you have someone who's not running like a stiff board behind the O-line. So there's someone who can actually get downfield. The beauty, I remember doing a lot of research on this, because I remember pre-draft there was a report saying that they were interested in him, and that's when I started doing some digging into his like athleticism and his metrics, watching film. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was he was talented operating behind a lead blocker. The Niners are one of the few teams who operate with a talented fullback in Kyle Juszczyk. So when you add in that dynamic, what he's going to bring to this team, they're going to lead out with Juszczyk and throw him in the backfield. It's going to fit. The fit as well. The scheme fits him well. So I was excited to see the pick. Could they have waited? Probably, right? But the draft pick kind of sucked. But I think overall the fit for the team is nice. And I agree with you 100%. That's Trey Sermon's replacement.
So I've got one more name that I think is interesting. It's Tyler Algiere. I know he's fairly popular. The reason that I chose Algiere is not just that, the opportunity with the Falcons and they cut Mike Davis. It's also that I don't think enough people are talking about how Cordarrelle Patterson is 3 years older or more than every other starting running back in the NFL.
When he's a receiver.
He's going to play some receiver, but he has an injury history. The dude's 31. He's going to get some type of carries, probably. And if they give him some type of carries, he's not going to hold up, I don't think. I think we're playing with fire, giving a 30-year-old journeyman running back receiver hybrid so many between the tackles carries last year. I think if they give him that role again, he's getting injured. And cool, he either gets injured and that helps Algiere, or they're like, no, you're going to be used more as a receiver. And then Algiere walks into 200-plus carries. There's Mike Davis is gone. Quadri Allison is just like Trey Sermon South, potentially, where you just look at him and it's like, this guy's probably not it. So I really like Algiere, and it's partly because of the Patterson thing, where you can't have this 31-year-old taking those between the 20s carries, up the middle carries, like he actually ended up doing, because they kind of switched Patterson's role. First half of the year, receiver, unbelievable. Second half of the year, suddenly just grinder back. They cut out his targets. I don't know why. It truly made no sense to me, but I think Algiere's just set up for so many carries, and he's just a really good running back. Where I think he's talented enough, but what I like about him in Dynasty is you can just flip this guy. He's going to get more work than I think a lot of people expect early on. Flip him. 5th round pick. He's got no long-term value. Great guy to get in and then get out quickly on.
The only problem with Algiere, I wasn't in love with his tape. He's got fumbleitis. He's got some fumbling concerns. But there's another running back on the team that no one seems to be talking about that is going free in drafts that I really like as well. The running back is Damian Williams, who's been productive in his time when given the chance to carry the rock. I'm not quite sure Algiere is just going to step into a role where he's automatically given, 35, 42% of the workload. I agree with you. Magic Cord has some injury concerns. He's got age concerns. I'm not entirely convinced that they don't throw him out wide more with the wide receiver cord they have either.
I hope they do.
I think they should as well. So that leaves a lot of carries open here for the backfield, a lot of vacated targets as well for this backfield. There's a lot to go around here. How much of that will go to Algiere, I don't know, but I think Damian Williams is also going to be in the mix, and I think people are overlooking it. He's one of my most on running backs right now in best balls, just because he's free, like around 20 every time, 19 if you really are desperate and need to add a running back. But I don't want to be wrong on this because I'm not super confident about it. It's one of those where you want to just make sure that you have, shares both ways, so you're offsetting any loss, or you're at least having ownership and able to collect on some of those winning rosters. So I want to say I like it just because of the opportunity, but I'm going to use a word of caution because I think Damian Williams is probably better at football at this point.
So I think Damian Williams is probably fine at football. What I think can probably happen, and why I prefer Algiere a good amount, is what happened last year with the Bears. I'm not sure Khalil Herbert, the guy's really good at football. All right, we can all agree on that. But I also think part of the shift over to Herbert, what are the Bears playing for in 2021? Why do you care what Damian Williams does? Your team sucks. Figure out what the young guys are doing. And I think the Falcons could just defer to that. And I think that's just always in the cards. They're gunning for the 101 next year. Hey, just see what you have in Algiere. Is this a piece of the potential playoff contending roster 2-3 years down the line?
Well, yeah, especially if he's fumbling that much, they're going to get that pick.
Yeah. So that's what I worry about with Damian Williams, is that even if Damian Williams is vastly outplaying him, sure, he's getting the work. But I think if it's even close between them, they just defer to the rookie because of where they're at with contention, and it's just a total tank fest.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'll take that. That's fair enough. All right, let's move along here. So give me 3 of your top rookies at each position, or even 2, that have moved up. Or sorry, we just did up. Have moved down based on your landing spots.
So this one will be quicker. We're not going to have any Skye Moore monologue love fest going on. So got a couple names written, or 3 names written down. So we got Garrett Wilson. Yeah. We have the Zach Wilson question marks. Is he good or not? That right there is already a factor. Corey Davis, I don't think at least this year is going anywhere. Elijah Moore's really good at football. And the guy was getting like 25% of the targets during that like 5 or 6 game stretch before he went down. I think Garrett Wilson's really good. He was my pre-draft wide receiver 1 because I thought he had literally everything except alpha size. The guy just crushes. But
I also drafted a pretty good running back.
Yeah, and then like the Breece Hall signing to me signaled this is going to be more of a run pass balanced offense. They had the fewest rush attempts in the NFL last year, 380, unbelievably low. I don't think that continues. So yeah, Wilson, few things that are concerning with him, and then like Jahan Dotson, I just don't know what to make of Washington. We just have no idea what's going on with Curtis Samuel, but he's still under contract, and he's always been good when out on the field commanding targets. Logan Thomas has always commanded targets. Gibson and McKissick always command targets when they're on the field. And there's McLaurin. There's just a lot of guys going on where I'm like, I just don't quite know if Dotson is better than all these guys, or at least in year 1, I think it could be rough. I don't know what this team's plans are. They're not going to be god awful. So I don't think they're not contending for like a top pick next year. I don't know what the quarterback situation is long term. It's Wentz this year, and then this team's pretty screwed long term. I don't know what's going on. I just don't like his quarterback situation. I don't like this team overall. So Dotson, I think he's just someone that I'm out on. And then I love downgrading a guy that gets the draft capital, but I just hate the landing spot. Taekwon Thornton. I've seen some people talking him up. I get it. He runs in the 4.2s. He also didn't do anything until he was a senior. From my understanding, he's purely a gadget guy. They've pigeonholed him into this one little role because they happen to need speed, so they reached on a speedster. I get it. He got 2nd round draft capital. I've seen him go as early as mid-2nd round in rookie drafts because of that draft capital. And I think I have him at player 35 in my top 50, where I'm like, hey, if it's the end of the 3rd round, screw it. Take the guy that got round 2 draft capital, who I hate the prospect profile. Earlier than that, no. So Taekwon Thornton, I'm just like, I don't like this fit. I don't think he's going to be like beating out Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker when healthy, Hunter Henry. There's just a lot of dudes there I think are just truly better at football than him. So Thornton, I know some people like it because he got crazy good draft capital compared to expectation. Looks to me just like an absolute cluster in that depth chart.
Okay, I like it. For me, I agree with all those. For me, like George Pickens was one of mine. I had him pegged to go to like Green Bay or even I had dreaming that maybe Kansas City would draft him as well. And although I really liked his tape and loved the prospect, I still think that he could be one of the best receivers in this draft class. I just don't love the landing spot, going to Pittsburgh here, Trubisky at quarterback, Pickett coming in. Like, what is going to happen here in 2021, 2022? What's going to happen in 2023? Right? You still have Deontay Johnson. There's just a lot of targets to go around. They also, it seems to be a mess. So I'm not loving his 2022 upside for redraft. I'm kind of pumping the brakes now. I'll still go in with the dynasty because, anytime the Steelers draft a receiver, it always has you turn and look.
That's kind of why I left him off the list. Is like redraft, don't love him, but you just can't bet against these Steelers receivers in dynasty based on how they've run the team. Like that's
what it is. Like for like me, like watching film, it like was like reconfirmed. Like, oh, good. Like I took good notes. Like I watched it, I liked it. It made sense. Okay, great. The teams that are some of the best scouts and watching wide receivers drafted them. Okay, great. Made me feel good, but as a fantasy player, I'm like, I hate the landing spot. Right? As an analyst, you're like, oh, yay, pat on the back, right?
Yeah, I just don't like drafting handcuff receivers. He feels kind of like a handcuff receiver. Like you're really like if you're drafting him right now, you kind of have to just awkwardly root on Deontay or Claypool going down.
Yeah, or just Claypool just continue to be raw and make bonehead moves, right? Which is a possibility. I just don't know. I just don't think there is enough opportunity to go around because people forget like Freiermuth's a good tight end. He had a really good rookie year. It was like a great rookie year, and he's got really good hands. And so I just not sure that this offense is going to have enough volume to go around to, make him fantasy relevant in 2022.
I think another point that I think one of my favorite podcast episodes I ever heard was JJ Zacharyson did one like a year and a half ago, maybe. It was about rookie quarterbacks. Basically, with a rookie quarterback, best case scenario, they support one super fantasy relevant receiver. Pretty much no cases supporting two super fantasy relevant receivers. And like the Burrow and Herbert rookie years, if you look at that fantasy production on those teams, that's like the absolute best case scenario. Is that you get like, like the wide receiver 2 in an offense is like wide receiver 40 per game is like the best case scenario. So yeah, Pickens, not someone I'm interested in for redraft.
All right, give me one running back so we can keep on pace here.
So we'll keep it spicy. It's Kenneth Walker. Like the other two names. So I'll just list the other two names with like rapid fire. Brian Robinson. I mean, what are we doing here? I don't know what his role is. I think it like could hurt Gibson, but anyway, Brian Robinson. Bam. Tyler Beatty. I do not like that he's one of my pre-draft favorites, pass catching running back going to the team that doesn't throw to the running back. Bam. Now let's talk about Kenneth Walker. So the most backwards franchise regarding offensive play calling has to be the Seattle Seahawks. It is archaic. It is medieval times. Pete Carroll has a future Hall of Fame quarterback and decides that we're never going to let the guy even sniff 600 pass attempts. What makes me think that whatever quarterback is the future, whoever they bring in at any point, this is going to be a creative offense that's moving the ball? I don't know. I don't think enough people realize the Seahawks had the fewest offensive plays run last season. Even in the games where if you remove those Geno Smith games, it was egregious. This team was not sustaining drives. They have no offensive philosophy that is 21st century. It is truly painful to watch. And now you mean to tell me that Drew Lock is there, maybe Baker Mayfield. Oh, please be Baker Mayfield. Because right now you're looking at an archaic system where you have Kenneth Walker, who doesn't catch passes, a 2-down grinder back on an offense that's never going to sniff the red zone. You mean to tell me that I'm getting the empty calorie between the 20s touches from Kenneth Walker, who's also only 210 pounds? So he's probably going to get Nick Chubbed, if not worse, where the guy's never getting 20 carries in a game because he probably can't handle it at the NFL level. Gross. Do not like Kenneth Walker in redraft. I do not like Kenneth Walker in dynasty. I don't care what you think about him. Like, yeah, he's ridiculous, pure runner. I'm not playing real football here. I'm playing fantasy football. And unfortunately, carries up the middle do not score fantasy points.
I couldn't agree more. Walker was the one I was going to say. So I'm not going to change my mind because I agree with you 100% here.
There we go.
People also, I'm sticking to the guns. I'm not changing. People forget they drafted Rashad Penny in the round 1 and they didn't play Penny much the first year. What makes them think that they're going to start Kenneth Walker when he had, another round of capital, wasn't drafted round 1. And people forget how damn good Penny was down the stretch last year. He had 671 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns from week 14 and on. That's how damn good he was. Like, I owned him in like 70% of my leagues and dropped him in like week 12 or 13. And then you can't pick him back up again. And then boom, like that was the difference maker. And there's no way that they were going to let him walk in free agency. Carson doesn't have a neck. So Carson's out of the picture to me. So in my opinion, there's still about 39% of the vacated carries, not targets, carries on this team. Will Walker get that? So again, won't get all of it, but he'll get a portion of that. I just don't think, in terms of landing spots, it's one of the worst landing spots that I could have possibly imagined him going to be productive and what he needed to receive as a true, runner, right? As a pure runner to be successful in the NFL. Like, he's arguably the best pure runner in this class.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic runner, but I just don't like the landing spot being behind Penny, who's as dynamic as he was down the stretch. Pete Carroll just doesn't have the history of starting and trusting rookie running backs. I hate it for 2022. Like, I overdrafted him a little bit in these early best ball tournaments, but I'm looking back at it and saying maybe I'll get lucky down the stretch, but I'm not liking it as of today. So I agree with you 100%. Oh man, Kenneth Walker. I look at it and say, like, man, he would have been perfect in Atlanta, right? There's so many other places that
so I wanted him.
Land.
I'm a Chargers fan, and I wanted him in LA. Let me tell you, him and Eckler together with Justin Herbert offense would have been so fun. Like, if
and
you
then
want
it would have
two
relieved
players,
a lot of the early down work from Eckler, and he could drive the passing down and still get, a lot of the 1-2 work, but not have to be overworked.
Yeah, I liked him in New Orleans. I thought he was just going to be excellent. If you could pair him with an elite pass catching back, and then next thing you know, you just have this fantasy gold in the backfield where you're going to have people scared because there's 2 running backs there. I'm like, no. These guys play totally different roles, and they're both very, very good at them. But now, yeah, this is just fantasy football cast off land in Seattle.
All right, moving. Let's talk about some vets right now, and we're going to keep it rookie related. So, which veterans do you think, or give me at least 1 or 2 veterans that you think gained the most redraft value on draft night?
So, in terms of gaining the most value, I think Zach Wilson. Right? I mean, I just dumped on him before. I think he's not very good at football, but compared to what I viewed him as, and I think with Zach Wilson, terrifying, absolutely terrifying in Dynasty. Love him in redraft. And I'll explain what I mean there. Zach Wilson is now surrounded by Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, 2 competent tight ends in CJ Uzomah and Tyler Conklin. He's got Breece Hall and Michael Carter in the backfield. Love him in redraft because even though I think he stinks, hey, that supporting cast is unbelievable. There is truly a chance for the year 2 leap. Here's why I think he's terrifying in Dynasty. He doesn't feel like someone that has the leash. Justin Fields, if Justin Fields is bad this year, that's fine. They're going to try him again next year. They're going to bring some receivers in. There's so many excuses you can make. I think Fields just showed a lot more at times in the awful situation he was in last year. If Zach Wilson is bad, this Jets team is going to be bad. And they're going to take another quarterback early in the first round next year. I think they're basically going to be like, hey, if you couldn't win with this superstar cast, it's a potentially a top 5 supporting cast overall. You couldn't win with them? Great. We're taking another guy. So love Zach Wilson for redraft, elevated stock, terrifying in Dynasty. The other one, it's going to be J.K. Dobbins. Not really the profile that I generally target, which is the sort of committee-ish running back who doesn't catch passes. I normally hate that profile, but let me tell you, they got rid of Marquise Brown. They did nothing to replenish that. Oh, hello, ultra run heavy Ravens of 2019 and 2020. 2021 looks like the anomaly year. They tried the pass heavy system. Lamar, yards per attempt, interception rate, everything drops. And I think it makes sense. Like, that's not Lamar's game. They're going back to extremely run heavy. It's just Andrews and Bateman. Dobbins could, I think he's in the mix for 20 carries a game. He was getting most of the red zone touches not last year, the year before last when he's a rookie. Once he kind of got going, it was mostly him. So yeah, I just have to to go with J.K. Dobbins, where I kind of came around on him. The profile I normally don't like, and you just look. They drafted 2 tight ends in the upcoming class. They get rid of Marquise Brown. This team wants to run the damn football, and I'm just going to trust them. And I'm going to trust that J.K. Dobbins is healthy enough and recovered from his ACL tear. Else they would have been bringing in other running backs. They would have drafted someone that's not 197-pound Tyler Beatty. Love it for Dobbins.
How are you? Are you concerned at all with the recovery from the injury?
Yeah, that's something that I am concerned about, but I think the draft eased some of those concerns.
You think they would have spent more capital if they had a little bit more, maybe gone after a free agent?
I think if Brian Robinson goes there in round 3, recovery's not going well for either him or Edwards or both. But I think when you take the 197-pound Tyler Beatty, I think that's pretty clear to me that Dobbins is doing really well. Because they like Gus the Bus, but that's not really someone you want to run, have your run game moving through. So I think they've got Beatty on third downs, and Dobbins going to get a lot of that first and second down work. And it's a team that's probably just going to keep moving the chains, just like they did in 2019 and 2020. Their best run offense in the NFL.
All right, I love it. I was a little behind on the chat. I was so caught up in our discussion.
Yeah, I saw you
here.
Just rapid fire.
I looked over and I was like, "Holy crap!" There's 15 comments. I was like, "I better get caught up on these." So let's run through some of these comments real quick. Everyone's commenting on the shirt here. Larky's shirt game on fire today. Scott says Larky has the best shirts. Now they're talking about my hat, and I think that I think Trevor's right. Everyone in Bend does have this hat. I have a lot of hats, so I'm gonna start wearing a different hat. Maybe I'll pull out some of my golf hats here on the podcast coming up. Maybe tomorrow. Let's fill the draft room. So keep an eye on the shirt game. You're lucky he's wearing a shirt, because usually he's shirtless here doing TikToks and his OnlyFans.
So something disappointing. I did some TikTok analytics. The shirtless TikToks have ended up not getting as many views as the non-shirtless ones. So the shirt is staying on for these TikToks. I'll do the occasional one shirtless to be funny, but the analytics have spoken.
You just gotta tear it open. That way they think you have a shirt and they watch it.
Yeah,
I just rip it open.
Yeah. I know some people, the haters out there will say that I'm too old to have my shirt off on a TikTok platform. I like to think that I intimidate the younglings. And that's why they're these 16-year-old boys that are just very, very, they're going through changes in their life, and they're like, I'm very insecure. They don't like to see it. So that's
you're in California too. They got strict gun laws. So you can't be bringing those things out on TikTok like it's just, you can just carry guns wherever you want to go.
We got someone in the chat. Yeah, I did a stream earlier today with a white shirt, and I even mentioned on the stream. All of a sudden, I was like, I'm wearing a white shirt. My background is white. I'm pale as shit. And you can't even see me. You mostly just see a shirt where it's a white shirt with a pattern. You saw a pattern. Everything else was just
the facial hair.
It's just facial hair, and then pattern on the shirt.
Even your earbuds are white.
Yeah, some people don't even know I've got the earbuds in.
Oh, that's great. Okay, we have a couple more. I'm going to get some on some previous comments. We'll kind of backtrack a little bit here. There was a comment over under how many weeks will it take Breece Hall to bust a 50-yard touchdown? Let's set the line at 4.5.
I'd say over.
Okay.
Still some O-line concerns for me. I think it's going to be an adequate offense. Still not sure how good it's going to be. Yeah, just I don't know. Also, Breece Hall's long speed wasn't necessarily to be a film grinder for a second. I don't know if it came out on tape.
He looked explosive on tape.
I mean, I thought he looked fast. I don't think he looked 4.3s fast.
No, not 4.3 fast, but he looked fast. Mm-hmm. Man, we don't know the schedule, right? Maybe they're playing Houston week 1 or something. We don't know yet, right?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the schedule. So we'll find out. Was that May 12th? So we got a week.
Yeah, we got a week.
A week left. We'll ask that question again in a week, Scott. All right, back to the questions here. And I think we got about 15 more minutes. I know you have an appointment with your dog, right? You take him for a walk every night at the same time, you said?
Yeah, this is the lady gets back from work. We do the dog walk. That's a little bit of our time. But I've got 20 more minutes if you want to take. We can take up to 20.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Let's take a look at, of course, everyone's favorite in this draft class, rookie quarterbacks. Is there any, are there any that, piqued your interest in the 2022 for redraft only?
No.
How about Superflex? Does that change anything?
So for Superflex, I think Pickett is in the rotation potentially. I think he's going to start earlier than people expect, just based on the Trubisky contract, where it's backup quarterback money. They took him at 20. And I think they want to know what they have and pick it pretty early. So Wheeler, get out of the chat. I'm trying to focus. What are you doing? So I think especially like
he wants us to take our shirts off, is what he's saying.
Yeah. I think outside of Pickett, you can't draft these quarterbacks. Just playing the numbers game, no matter what you think about the starters ahead of them, these guys going round 3 and later tells you what you need to know about how the team views their current starter compared to that rookie. That's just kind of how I see it. It's like, I mean, like Ritter will probably start some games at some point, but also like if they were really itching to get Ritter in there over Mariota, he's not lasting till round 3. They had a lot of picks before that. So that's just my fears. Historically, it'd be pretty unprecedented if a lot of these guys, I mean, like, do I think Darnold stinks? Do I think Wentz stinks? Sure, but it'd be pretty unprecedented for these guys year 1 to actually be doing something.
All right, so scenario here: you're on the clock. You passed on, let's say, like that last tier of quarterback on the round before, the Goffs, the Mills, the Wentzes. They all go. Quarterback runs happens. You come back. You only have 2 quarterbacks. Are you selecting a Willis? Are you selecting a Ritter, a Pickett? Are you pushing it down now and just going to take whoever's last at the end of your draft?
I'll just push it down.
Okay.
I like to defer to the numbers when I don't have a super strong take. And it just, what Davis Mills did last year as the 3rd round pick, that is rare. Usually you're getting Kellen Mond. So yeah, I don't want to draft these guys.
All right. Enough about quarterbacks. No one cares about these rookie quarterbacks. Let's move on. Give me, who are a couple rookie sleepers that were drafted in round 3 of the NFL or later that you like, that aren't garnering enough attention as of today? So somebody that you will think will either make a splash in camp, win a camp battle, earn a larger role. Give me a fantasy sleeper round 3 or later NFL draft.
Oh, you had after round 3 on the show sheet. Now you're saying round 3 or later. Are we going round 3 or later? Or are we going day 3? Where are we going with this one?
Okay, you can do day 3.
Okay, I had a day 3 guy. So it's Keontae Ingram.
Okay.
Prospect profile looks decent enough. And I love the situation with the Cardinals. He seems pretty well-rounded in general. Decently, like he's athletic enough. He's big enough. And I think with the Cardinals, they didn't take much else at running back. James Conner's got the bad injury history. And I think with the Cardinals, they do one of 2 things. Either they just force feed Connor like he did at times last year, and he's probably going to get hurt. Just not the optimal strategy, though it's also Cliff Kingsbury. What can we expect? Or they need someone else there. And I just feel like it's back-to-back. We have 2 years. It's just like, who's the guy that I was saying earlier Amari Rodgers, where I was like, yeah, if the guy was going to happen when the team's contending for a playoff spot, they would have put him out on the field if they thought it was good. Eno Benjamin has been there 2 years. I liked him as a prospect. He had a pretty rock-solid profile. But hey, if they're not going to use the guy in back-to-back seasons, I'm pretty inclined to think he's not very good. Keontae Ingram, he's the fresh blood. He's got better draft capital than the 7th round Eno. So I think he's a really good deep sleeper where I think he could even have appeal. Even if Connor stays healthy, I think he could be doing something enough to boost his dynasty value and to potentially give you the occasional spike week if you're taking him end of best ball. So I think he's just kind of a fun one where I think a pretty obvious handcuff candidate who also could give you more than that pretty much from day 1.
Okay. I like it too. Yeah, I agree here with Wheeler. Ingram should pretty easily beat out Eno. Eno had a lot of opportunities last year and didn't really do much with him at all, if anything. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I just don't see a scenario where they're going to continue to go back to him. Will he be involved? Yes, but is he going to beat out a rookie for, the number 2 role on a week-to-week basis? Maybe in the beginning of the year, but not as the season progresses. Mm-hmm. So I agree with that one as well.
Who do you have? Give me a name. Go back and forth. Seems like you like Ingram as well.
I do like Ingram. There's a name on here that I like. So you mentioned one of them earlier, so I'm not going to get into it. I actually like Beatty's landing spot, but I won't get into that right now. But the running back, because I wasn't able to list this running back on another show last night, the name, I'm going to list it today, and that's going to be Snoop Connor. And
yes.
To me, it breaks down the opportunity again, right? You have Robinson recovering off of a major injury. You have ETN recovering off an injury. You know, you have 118 carries that are available for the taking. That alone is just 30% right there, rushing carries that are available on this team. So I like the opportunity that he has there. I like the talent. I like the player. And I think that it's a sneaky ad that you can get him almost for free in any draft that you're in the dynasty drafts. It's, you know, last couple rounds every single time easily. So it's just one of those players that you really don't have to spend anything on, and it's all the upside in the world.
Yeah, I think all you need to hear is James Conner is going to start the season on PUP. And then everyone looks at the depth chart and goes, oh, whoa, Snoop Connor? What? Next thing you know, the ADP shoots up a few rounds. So, yeah, he was the other guy I had noted down, but just deferred to Ingram. It was pretty much just better offense. So I'll generally defer to the better offense. But yeah, I think Snoop Connor is another one where pretty high probability that he somehow sneaks in 100, 150 carries as a rookie.
Absolutely within the realm possibilities. Yeah, I haven't finished projections with it yet with him in there, but I'm going to say he's probably going to be in that, you know, 119 to 140-ish range, maybe 150, depending on I haven't done all the math yet, but he'll probably finish in that.
When do you have Robinson coming back? I feel like I think he's probably going to be in the 70s or 80s for me, just because I think Robinson is probably going to play like 11 games. So like comes back after 6 weeks. You think he might play less?
It could be a PUP candidate.
Yeah.
Right.
I just have no idea with him.
I don't either. And I don't know. There's not been a lot of reports, and, you know, there's really no reason to rush him back right now. I mean, they have ETN there. He's going to be able to step in. They drafted Snoop. I mean, they're probably going to add someone else in, you know, free agency later in camp, or a vet of some sort. But there's still a lot of time for this to shake out. But I don't know how he's recovering in that recovery process. There hasn't been too much information on it. And I just don't feel like that's an injury that you're going to come back with right away anyways. Like very rarely. Fade list. Give me a couple names on your fade list, and you can be rookies or vets here after the draft.
So I'll start with two veterans. One of them is Antonio Gibson, someone that I've really liked. I'm pretty invested in Dynasty, but I think the writing is on the wall. They brought back JD McKissick, third down back. Then they take Brian Robinson in the third round. That is legitimate draft capital for a running back I thought looks pretty good. And I mean, if you just zoom out for a second, this was Alabama's absolute bell cow in 2021. I don't care that he was a fifth-year senior becoming a bell cow. We know that age doesn't matter as much for running back as it does receiver. And if you're telling me that Alabama's bell cow got taken in the third round on, like, no matter who the running back is outside of like a Jonathan Taylor, it's going to give me the heebie-jeebies. And Gibson got hurt as a rookie. He got hurt in year 2. And the coach, the comments from the coaches was basically like, hey, Gibson got hurt the past 2 years. We need to help preserve him. That sounds to me like it's going to be a pretty ugly committee. I want basically no part in Gibson. I think McKissick's got pretty limited upside. If I have to take a flyer on one of them, it's Robinson, just because he goes so much later. But this is a backfield to avoid. And I think Gibson just nukes his fantasy value. The other one, A.J. Brown. I do not like that A.J. Brown, once again, probably in a low passing volume offense, but now instead of competing with guys like Ferkser and Julio Jones multiple years past his prime, he's actually competing with Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith had a 22% target share as a rookie. The dude is a certified baller. Dallas Goddard is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. If you look at his yards per reception, his ADOT, it looks wide receiver-esque. Goddard is a legitimate weapon who's going to be a threat to some of A.J. Brown's usage. This isn't a situation where you can just pencil A.J. Brown in for close to 30% of the targets again. I think the target share is lower than last year. I think Tannehill, yes, in fantasy, Hurts over Tannehill, but real life football, I still think Tannehill is just a better thrower of the football than Hurts. And I think there's just downgrades pretty much across the board, increases with the competition around him. And I keep seeing him go round 2 in redraft. I cannot pull the trigger. I think A.J. Brown should be firmly in round 3 with the new situation. And it's like, hey, he changed quarterbacks as well. Devonta Smith, people are like, oh, they're having breakfast together, A.J. Brown and Hurts. And I'm like, I don't give a shit about breakfast. He literally played with Devonta Smith last year and gave him 22% of the targets as a rookie. That to me is a lot more indicative than this Stafford Cup breakfast narrative where because Cup had the most historic late 20s breakout in NFL history, that you're now going to use that as your main data point for why A.J. Brown's just going to go nuclear. I give it a 30%, 35% chance Devonta Smith has more targets next year than A.J. Brown.
Yeah, man, you're A.J. Brown. How much do you hate life? Like you go from like arguably the lowest passing volume team in the NFL to the lowest passing volume team in
so
the
bad.
NFL. I mean, the Patriots would have been another horrible landing spot, right? So there, I agree with all those. I got a couple here. Josh Jacobs is my first one. Like I'm
interesting. Tell me why, because I'm actually neutral on him. So give me the terrible. Give me the bear
so
case.
a couple things. One, look at the new head coach McDaniels coming from the Belichick coaching tree, who likes to deploy a running back by committee approach. Right? It's been inside that system for as long as he's been there. And two, they declined his 5th-year option. I'm not even entirely sure he's going to be on this roster the entire year at this point. Do they try to get some draft capital for him when a team loses a running back in camp, an injury early in the season? I could see them easily giving him up. They drafted Zamir White, who's, a pretty dynamic running back, who was my running back 3 heading into this draft. And, wasn't crazy about the landing spot. But when I saw that, option be declined, it signals to me that he's already out the door to them. And they have no commitment to him. They brought in, I'm not saying, Bolden's anything, but they brought in Brandon Bolden. They trust Brandon Bolden. How much are they going to use him? Whether it's, carry here, carry there, third down here, right? It was clear and obvious that they did everything in their power last year to try to take away third downs from Jacobs outside of injuries that saved that production for him. I just don't think that they particularly like Josh Jacobs. And I don't think that their plan is to keep him on this roster. So there's no loyalty to remain, to give him the rock, to give him the touches. They're probably going to, throw out their new toy with Zamir White out there in the field, who's very explosive. And I could see him just taking a stranglehold of this backfield and, hot hand approach like the Patriots like to do. And next thing you know, he's on the field more. So Josh Jacobs, I haven't been able to grab. Has he been productive in fantasy? Absolutely. I just don't think 2022 it's going to be the same.
That's good. Yeah, I've been kind of mixed. So that was one side of it. I think like the Bulls case for him that I was also kind of weighing is that this offense is way better. He looks like the goal line back. He was 4th in the NFL in targets for running backs last year. So he kind of showed each year he added target share and overall targets to his profile. So I think it's unlikely that he becomes some super back, but I think if he gets even close to last year's usage, he could be a monster. But I'm kind of with you. Like why I've only pulled the trigger a couple times is I think the Zamir White one's actually pretty damning. Zamir White's kind of like the opposite of Jacobs. He's just like, Jacobs is like very good vision. I mean, the guy runs like high 4.6.
Yeah, he's
very good vision. Zamir White, 2 ACL tears, blazes 4.4 at like 215. Zamir White, I think
he just runs without any care for his body. That's why I love watching him run.
Yeah, right? I think you could see, and I think like my fear with Jacobs is like training camp comes around and they go, oh my goodness, looking at each of them taking carries and they go, how are we not at least 50-50ing this?
Yep.
Once
exactly.
we see what we have. So yeah, I'm with you. Like Zamir White, very limited profile in terms of like fantasy. I get a little worried because no more than 9 catches in any season, the injury history. But I think like at least for this year, like Zamir White's going to be really annoying to Josh Jacobs is kind of my fear. And that like, if I'm going to defer to one of them, I've taken more White just because he goes at the end of the draft.
Yeah, it's free. Right. Not free, but it's the capital is not nearly as expensive. We have one question and then we'll get one listener question and then we'll get to the last question of the night. How are we liking Gage with Godwin coming back from injury?
I absolutely love Gage. I have so much Russell Gage. Russell Gage is someone that I don't even remember what I want to say. Was it linebacker, safety? I don't remember. Russell Gage was not a cornerback. Russell Gage was not a receiver until much later in his career. So kind of late to the position. And all we've seen out of him year after year is pretty substantial improvements. He was a total usage monster, outproducing Pitts multiple times last season. Showed that you could kind of funnel an offense through him if you absolutely had to. That's not really like his ideal role. It's not what he's going to have to do because there's Mike Evans there. Very likely Gronk will be back, but we know that Gage is a talented player, and Tom Brady handpicked him. Tom Brady said, like, I looked and I thought Russell Gage was a good NFL player, and I wanted him on this roster. I have no idea what Godwin's timetable is. I have read reports that he could even be out till potentially November. All I know is that Russell Gage looks fully healthy right now, as far as I'm aware, and he's going to be their wide receiver 2 for week 1. And it's the Tom Brady offense. I mean, even if he could be like the 3rd, 4th on the pecking order, I won a lot of money in DFS last year, just rotating Brady, Fournette, Evans, Gronk, Godwin. There's so many guys there that can be fantasy relevant when Tom Brady's throwing the ball over 700 times. It's the pass heaviest, pass friendliest offense in the NFL. You want pieces. And I think Gage should honestly be going like 2-3 rounds earlier than he does right now.
Especially with the uncertainty with Gronkowski, right? He most likely comes back and plays. I don't think Tom Brady, I think, ultimately has that say. I don't think Gronk does. and I think that he probably just wants to skip out of camp, probably comes back. But if he does not, all those targets, Godwin's targets, Gronk's targets, there's a lot of targets available for him to come in and step in and be, make an impact. I like Wheelers here. Gage equals AB from 21 to 22, right?
It's just an easy case to make for Gage. Like, you don't even have to think much. It's just like, hey, like Gronk retires, or hey, Godwin comes back midseason. Boom.
Yep.
You immediately have someone that's going to be giving you like 12 to 15 fantasy points a game, depending on the week. It's going to be awesome. I think Gage showed last year that he truly is someone that can handle like 6, 7, 8, 9 targets a game when needed.
Okay. We have the last question of the night, and you have to play along. You have to close your eyes. Okay. Imagine if you will. No, I'm just kidding. I'll turn off the love music.
All right. Eyes are open.
It's round 16. You're in a best ball draft. You're trying to build the sexiest roster imaginable with the most upside physically possible. No floor pick is available here. Like, we don't pick floor picks. Those are bad picks. What rookies are you gravitating towards to compete for your roster?
So I have no idea how you feel about this guy. People either love him or hate him. Will I sound like a fish? Let's find out. Wan'Dale Robinson is a ceiling pick, not a floor pick. Yes. Oh, there we go. I'll explain why. So Wan'Dale Robinson, it's a very simple case. They're either getting rid of Tony, and that's why they did this, what I think me and probably many other people think was a total reach, where it's like, what the heck are you doing? You're grabbing him early second. Hey, I think this means Kadarius Toney's no longer there. Wan'Dale Robinson, actually a much better prospect profile than Tony. Dude had like 40% of the receiving yards and the targets at Kentucky last year. Wan'Dale Robinson's legit. I understand he was lined up in the backfield and in the slot pretty much every single snap. So you're like, there's the Rondale Moore worries because he's short and the usage was weird. But this is a team that took him in the second round. It seems like they have a plan. It's the Bills coaching staff who I trust to build an offense and make it functional. And I think this offense is just going to be much better than people think overall. And you only need one thing to go right for him to smash, and it's bye-bye Tony. I think Wan'Dale, he's either terrible and he's a gadget guy and you're pissed off that you made the pick, or you're basically getting like the flashes from Tony, but hopefully more consistent. So that's why I think he's actually like either nothing or ceiling. I don't think there's much. He's not really a floor pick. And that's why I like him, is people think, oh, the small receiver, can't believe they took him so early. That's disgusting. This guy's just no ceiling. I actually view it the opposite. He's either.
Do you know how many touchdowns he had in high school?
I assume it's just something ridiculous.
Just random guess. Throw it out there.
4 years. I don't know. 40 in 4 years.
118.
Wow.
Like, just I love one. I love the with landing spot. Like, I was expecting him to be more of a day 3 pick, and same. I saw him go day 2. I was, especially with Brian Dable, like, that's who utilizes small receivers. Like, has a history of utilizing them. Like, I loved the landing spot. I agree with you. Tony could be out the door. The reports now are kind of mixed. Seems to be rainbows and butterflies now. Tony's apparently bought in, got the playbook. Oh yeah, okay, whatever. Right, but
I don't believe it. You don't make that Wan'Dale pick if you love Tony. why are you picking Wandale?
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, but it's complete upside pick. Plus, you look at what they like. Who's their running back to right now? Matt Breida. There's nobody else behind Saquon Barkley. They're going to be able to throw Wandale Robinson in the backfield as well. Use him as that hybrid running back receiver role. Like I've been telling people think Debo, but tiny, right?
Yeah, like little baby Debo.
It's like baby
Debo.
Baby Debo.
We got Bebo.
Bebo. We'll start calling him Bebo. Yeah, we got, baby Debo, aka Bebo, running around the backfield here for the Giants. So I love the pick. Mine, and it depends on where you're drafting, but David Bell. His production in college, I mean, as a freshman, 1,000 receiving yards as a freshman, 7 touchdowns. People are going to say, "Oh, David Bell's slow." I don't care. David Bell has magic feet. Like the man can run routes. The man can make people miss. Like it just seems to be like he's always in the right place at the right time. His feet are always moving when they need to be moving. They're stopping when they need to stop. Like people say, like, "Oh, you have to have this elite speed to be successful in today's NFL." That's BS. You don't, right? There are running back or wide receivers out there who are just magicians that can run really good routes and create a lot of separation. There's some of the fastest receivers in the NFL who don't create a lot of separation because they're rounding off their routes or they're selling themselves or they're not, getting low in breaks, whatever it may be. David Bell is one of my favorite in this draft class. And there was times where he was going in around 18, 19, 20 in drafts. And at that cost or that price, I'm in 100%. Pushing the chips, all in.
Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't say Bell just because I've seen him starting to go a little earlier. Wandale's still going a little bit later, but yeah, I mean we've got Keenan Allen who probably runs in the 4.8s, 4.9s at this point of his career, still insanely productive. We just know it's the one position where like a lot of teams are prioritizing speed in many ways, but that doesn't mean that you can't win without you don't need the straight line speed. And it's like it's probably the one position in football outside of quarterback where you can truly have a sub athlete play at an elite level. There's pretty much no other position that I can think of aside from quarterback and receiver, which is kind of funny to think about, where you can have just terrible athlete crush it.
Yeah, like the Brady combine pick, like just looks like he's ready to like chug down a beer. It's the frat boy look. Oh, well, while we're here, guys, we're going to wrap up, but I want to remind everyone to head on over to the FFWC. We've done a lot of improvements at the site. New teams page. We have redesigned the queue and the just the way the whole draft room looks in terms of adding players to your queue and the way it works in terms of mobile compatibility and iPad compatibility. So improvements are being done every day. There's a new best ball tournament over there as well. Superflex best ball tournament, only 600 entries. It's a $50 entry, $25,000 in prizes. So your chances of winning are a lot greater than playing at other sites because of the amount of entrants that there are. And it's a completely unique format. We talked about it earlier in the show, but it is week 14 ends. You carry over your points into the championship weeks, the top 2 in each league. So the top 100 face off for a 3-week championship race. It rewards the best team, no variance, no luck. Top points win with the average of the week, as well as the 3-week shootout is claimed a champion. So lots of exciting things going over there as well. It's also our May Madness, so there's a lot of discounted prices on the World Championship and the online championship, as you can also purchase your live in draft tickets for Vegas. Make sure to go to that. That's a blast as well. And then the last piece on the selling of the site is if you buy the max tickets for the best ball, it's only 18 is the max, but you automatically get a VIP entrance into the suite at the Vegas live draft as well. So that's pretty. It's only $900, folks. You get all your drafts, and then you get to go into the VIP suite. That's a pretty good sell. So, Larky, thanks for joining us. Why don't you tell everybody where to find you, where they can find your work, and where they can find you dancing on TikTok shirtless.
Billy, just want to say thank you. This is the kind of show I look forward to. It's always nice to just hang out with someone that I consider a friend who also like challenges me, and we'll have things we agree on, things we don't agree on. So, love doing this. Check me out on Twitter at JLarkyTweets. Check me out on TikTok at JLarkyTikToks. And you can find all my work on FTN Fantasy, FTN Daily, and ftnbets.com. So pretty straightforward. It's time to make my second burrito of the night. Thanks.
I won the over.
We're gonna get the over. Chat, you've been wonderful.
Thanks everybody for chatting. If you have not done so already, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's fill this draft room, folks. 4 more spots. I want to draft this live tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern. See you then. Good night.
Nothing but time, use it to grind. They huff and they puff it, this bacon is mine. Stakes are all high, your stakes are so dry. I'm as rare as they come, put it all on the line. Losing very doubtful, cause I'm winning every outcome. I'm impressed by his guess, there's no reason to guess. Drafting like I won the lotto, but it's grind every day. Managing teams is just part of the game. Free agents, lineups, they all in one place. This is the content that can't be replaced. Speaking of place, first is the option. Win is the goal and I do it real often. Tournament entries, I already bought them. I bury the field, that's the nail in the coffin. Checking my watch, checking my clock. Grind is the time, I ain't never gonna stop. Digital, analog, never gonna stop. You ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna stop. Checking my watch, checking my clock. Grind is the time, I ain't never gonna stop. Digital, analog, never gonna stop. You ain't never gonna stop, I ain't never gonna stop. Cause it's grind time, let's go.